Hello, and welcome to SoulWhat, a Soultopia podcast produced by Matt Stoker. I'm Michelle Welch.
And I'm Roger Welch. So what's up today, Michelle?
Oh my gosh, so much and so little.
Really?
Yes.
Like what?
Like I've been very, very lazy, as you know.
That's not very much then.
But so much in my mind.
Then get out.
In my mind, Roger, all day you guys has been trying to get me out of my mind, which means get me out of the house.
I tried that too. I said, let's go to lunch.
For those of you who, like me, tend towards some melancholy that can go over a little to the depression side, it helps a lot to get going and get out of the house and to at least get out in nature, or at least go clean out the garage with your husband when it needs to be cleaned out.
It was raining today, yesterday, the day before. So.
No, but the sun came out, and so that's a pointer for you guys, because I'm not quiet about it. I've had a lifelong, I think as long as I can remember, seriously, just a struggle with depression. So, or with, thoughts of, sad things, and I go real deep in my mind, and it's hard to get out of there. And it's good that you help me try to climb out of it. It's very frustrating to him when I won't. But for those of you who do try with your significant others or with your friends, just remember sometimes it's like literally like we feel like we have weights on us and we just can't move.
Yeah.
But that wasn't me today. I just didn't want to move. I just had, but my mind had so many. Here's when I know I'm not too bad, is because my mind had so many things I want to do and that I wanted to accomplish, and that's a good sign.
Good.
I haven't gone. There's levels that I know to watch throughout.
Yeah.
My years that I've learned, but that's not our topic tonight, although it does bleed over, in my opinion, immensely into our topic. Our topic is negativity and thought forms.
Negativity and thought forms, all right.
Yeah, and so that word negativity is kind of like a broad word. And it was interesting because I started thinking about definitions and words, because right now anything you say at all. There used to be a lot of contrarians, right? Like anything you would say, someone would say, the other person would be like, well, no, it's the opposite, The
ones that like to tell you the opposite of whatever it is, just so they can try to get to you, try to argue with you or jab you a little bit.
Right.
You mean like Will? I got it.
Well, everybody I think was that way, and it seemed that way for the two schools I went to for at least postgraduate, for law school and Dallas and Theological Seminary. You wouldn't think it would be, but both seem that way. And I think that is the way of philosophy, anything that's kind of philosophical, which I posted today, that it's interesting, metaphysical stuff was formed out of a lot of philosophical discussions and beliefs. And so it's good when you can discuss things, but you can't really even dialogue with anybody today or these days without everybody getting upset and mad. And so, I think that even when you define something, or you start with just a premise, that you kind of have to understand where you're starting from. So I thought tonight we might start with, I asked people to chime in, and some did already, and I'll try and find what they wrote. But I posed some questions. Do you want me to read them?
Yeah. What you got there?
I posed to sound off on some topics like this. If our thoughts actually create reality, which a lot of people say, and there's a lot of memes that'll say that, your thoughts create reality, so be careful what you say, or because you can speak it into reality.
Yep.
So if that's true, well, first of all, do we believe that's true? Then if that is true, can we change the course of what seems to be a pretty grim reality right now? Can we change that? If so, why aren't we? What is negativity? Is it real? Is it a label? Is it on a scale of sort of negative to really negative, and who decides that scale? Who's the decider of negativity and not negative? What is, we're going to cover thought forms, hopefully, and tulpas, demons. Are those things real? Can we create them? Can we change the form of them? Like my book talks about transmutation.
Yeah.
Just gave my answer. Talks about, yes, we can, but it's not easy at all. And then while we understand we have a shadow side, so let's go ahead and admit that. We know that. If everything we're going to talk about tonight, yes, we know we have a shadow side and we need balance. But while we understand we have a shadow side, how much of a balance does there need to be?
Mm-hmm.
So I posed those questions. But I thought the first part of any philosophical discussion is sort of to define terms and kind of say these are our operating definitions. So I thought we might say, kind of what's your operating definition of negativity? Do you have one? Do you think, when we're talking about things are, that's negative, what do you think about that?
What do I think the definition to negativity is?
Yeah, like in an energy context or even in a emotional context.
I would believe that would be something that, how about this? How about something that rubs us the wrong way, makes us, the inner core of ourselves, not feel good?
Okay.
Yeah, something
Yeah,
like that.
So that might be your operating definition. And I would kind of think the same. Something for me that it's negative, but for me, and I struggled a lot with this in my book because to me, I do think it's sort of something we give a label to. And when I was thinking, and I do want to give a lot of credit today to Tracy that works here. She reads here. She does healings here. She's doing a lot of that remotely right now. And she did a class on thought forms recently.
Yeah.
If you guys want to do that, you still can. It's online. You have to take class 1 and it's esoteric magic, I believe. No, not hers isn't esoteric magic, but in order to take her second class, which is on thought forms and gets very deep into what we're talking about tonight, you have to take class 1, but hers is class 2. And it goes very deep into this. She's very smart. I mean, like, she was blowing my mind with stuff she was telling me today. It was so interesting. But I think that when you think about, for me, if you're talking about energy, everything's energy, right?
Right.
So if everything's energy, then the definition should apply to everything. But if you're talking about energy, for negative and positive is not maybe the ideal terms to use, because in energy, it's more about balance. There's lower energy, which might make feel uncomfortable. And maybe there's, and then you use it to balance out higher energy. For instance, and I meant to bring it in here. So there might be something that you come into our store and somebody might think, oh, something feels off in here. Well, I can tell you right away, we have pretty good energy in this store. Pretty much everybody says that. And we have pretty strong guides for Soultopia. And so it's pretty protective guides. And that's been told us by a lot of people, and I know that for a fact. I'm up here a lot, and we're up here a lot at night, and we know that. So our store has these guides and crystals, too, that balance out your energy. And it may make you feel like dizzy if it's a really high vibration, but that doesn't make it bad. And a low vibration doesn't make it... People think that low vibration makes it negative, but like a rose quartz may have a lower vibe, a lower vibration than moldavite, right?
Right.
But it doesn't mean it's bad.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So I just think that, when we're using positive and negative, it's kind of a whole thing that I struggled with in my book, because I do think they're kind of labels. And with the law of relativity, we kind of, if taken in a vacuum, we wouldn't know if those things were positive or they were negative, really. How would you know? It's when you compare it to something else, right?
Right.
I mean, how would you know if something's positive or negative? So positive and negative are really human thought forms, in my opinion. And so it's more about ethics when we talk about positive and negative, I think. And I'm almost done, but when I think about that, I think that might work in that, to think, what are your ethics? Then you have to determine that on your moral compass. basically anything I don't want someone to do to me, I probably shouldn't do to others. And, that's the rule of 3. That's karma. That's doing to others as they would have them do, and you would have them do. What is it? Doing to others as you would have them doing to you. I mean, every religion has
The
that
golden
belief,
rule.
the golden rule. So using positive and negative, for example, think about this. For example, one person could say, I was bullied growing up ruthlessly. And I was, by the way. Were you ever bullied?
Was I ever bullied?
Yeah.
That's a trick question.
How's that trick?
Not really. Maybe a time or two. But I may have done something that required it.
Okay, but did somebody pick on you for no reason?
No.
Okay.
No, there's usually a reason behind the fact I got picked on or punched in the mouth or something.
That's not being bullied. Well, it depends on why. People shouldn't be punching people in the mouth, I don't think.
Yeah. One time was a sucker punch through the car window, but
Okay. Well,
I drug him around the parking lot though.
Roger.
It happened. It wasn't negative. It was a positive feeling after the fact.
Y'all were friends.
No, we weren't.
Okay, we're not even talking about it. But so I got picked on, like ruthlessly. Kids would sit around and tell me, "You're skinny now. You have knobby knees, but maybe someday you'll be pretty because you're skinny now, and maybe that'll pay off someday." And I'm like, "Yeah, nana, boo boo." It kind of did, but
Yeah.
whatever. Okay, but I did. I got picked on for that. Like every single day if it would rain in PE, I would start getting really nervous, and I'd get kind of sick, and I'd want to go home because it was starting to get rainy, and that means we'd have to stay inside at PE, and I knew that they were going to circle around me and pick on how I looked.
Yeah.
Because was skinny and had like knob knees and everything, and so I would get that like every single day. And it was kind of, well, that's bullying really badly, right? So
Yeah.
I could say then, right, I could shape that, my feelings of that, into vengeance, right?
Mm-hmm.
I could. And for some, that might be karmic justice. But for others, and for me, that wouldn't be karmic justice. I would just call that vengeance. And it's not left up to me to get that karma. It's not left up to me to put revenge on them. So
Yep.
to me, that's how people can use positive and negative in a way that I don't agree with. Like, because to some, they might think that what I did, if I get back at them that way, that's positive. And I don't think that's a positive way to get back at somebody.
Right.
And so we're all making our own justice rules. And I think that's dangerous.
Could be. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just me.
Yeah.
So I know that somebody, did you see any of the responses to my questions?
No.
Okay, so I know that if you'll look on Intuitive Insights, or is it too hard for you to go off of there?
Mm-mm.
If you'll go onto Intuitive Insights, I know that Ashley, I'll just say their first name, she did respond, and I think I posted it in several places. She said, and I think I can kind of remember, and we're not to the exact question. I think she said for sure, yes, negative is real. Because that's what we really wanted to get to, was more like the scary things. If you can't find it, I remember pretty much what she said.
I'm looking. Gotta find
I
it.
found it.
Oh, you did?
Do you want me to read
Okay.
it? So Ashley said, and I asked if demons are real. Okay, so let's get into that. And she said, yes, demons are real. Ashley was one of my most popular readers here. She's staying home with her family right now, but she's very, very popular. She's a very, very kind and good person, and a good friend of ours, and a very good friend of mine. And she said, yes, demons are real, but I think true demons are rarely seen. Just saying. I think people often mistake negative thought forms as demons. Yes, I do think we can feed, fuel, create negative thought forms. Oh, what an interesting topic. Can't wait. And then I said, pay attention and please comment, and hopefully she's listening.
Mhm.
Carla
She
Nichols,
is.
or Carla, I just said first names. I'm not knowledgeable about thought forms as beings. I am aware of the power of thought as an energy. I have personally experienced miraculous things, and through a shift in energy or thought, was able to manifest what seemed impossible. I am compelled to say here that I personally do not believe it was me who manifested it, but that I was able to tap into and request divine intervention. However, there was a very, very, very difficult thing this is a very, very difficult thing to accomplish. I think your emotions, thoughts, and the energy, she capitalizes energy, behind them have to reach a level of intensity that is seldom within our human reach. It is possible to manifest a change in your current reality, but it is not easy. And I would say, just when I was writing the whole book on transmutation, that is not easy to either. And people might, and I even kind of challenge people in the book. I'm kind of like, well, if you've been transmuting and doing this forever, then why isn't the world a very different place than it is already? People can say they've been doing it and they do it all the time, but that concerns me.
Yeah.
And what they're transmuting things to.
Where are they moving it to?
Right.
There's well, this comment online here says there are negative beings, not evil, just negative, but they manifest via our definitions, our beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
So that actually makes sense.
Yeah. And then Joan says, I believe where I'm going is related to the, let me see if this is the right, no, that's a different one. Okay, so I'm going to go back to, see, hopefully I'll keep checking, because I did want y'all's opinions, because I don't think there's like a right answer, because I think we create it. That's the whole point, really. So we just want to keep looking on the Intuitive Insights and on the SoulWhat page, and I'll learn, you guys, where I'd like to start, if you guys would start looking on, primarily on SoulWhat's page for the SoulWhat show, and on YouTube, but it's hard for us to check all the different sites, and it's my fault because I'm posting to all the different places, and that's on me. But we'll try to cull it down to one place so we don't miss the comments. But I wanted to go into a little bit, Roger, about so we can get into thought forms. When you look up thought forms, one of the things you find is this thing called a tulpa. And I do have the definition of a tulpa for those of you watching. And Roger, do you want to read that?
Oh.
Can you see it?
Sure. What is a tulpa? A tulpa is an entity created in the mind acting independently of and parallel to your own consciousness. They are able to think and have their own free will, emotions, and memories. In short, a tulpa is like a sentient person living in your head, separate from you. It's currently unproven whether or not tulpas are truly sentient, but in this community, we treat them as such. It takes time for the tulpa to develop a convincing and complex personality. As they grow older, your attention and their life experiences will shape them into a person with their own hopes, dreams, and beliefs.
So the thing with tulpas is there's a whole like online community, and that was from, I believe, Tulpa Info or something. It said it at the bottom.
Yeah.
But there's a whole thing about tulpas and how you make them, how they come about. And they started, though, with the Tibetans. And so it was really serious business with Tibetans. It wasn't like from movies and things like that. And I'm not saying that they're not serious business with people now, because they are. My friend Tracy, it's very serious with her.
Yep.
But they were basically a thought form that you would create into being, and it was basically you're creating your own deity, is what you were doing.
Okay.
And the idea that the students that would create these deities, it was an exercise of the human mind, and it involved a great deal of meditation. It wasn't like you just all of a sudden said, okay, I have an imaginary friend. It's very different than that. We were creating a real being. Okay, so tuples were real beings, and students anybody who accepted the deities as true were seen as failures. Okay, so what they mean by that is they accepted them as real, but they didn't worship the deities, is my understanding. Okay. So students would have a lot of reasons to feel like a tulpa was a legitimate deity. After the person created a deity, it starts having its owners' personalities and thoughts, and they're totally parallel. But that's not all that happened. Rather, that's just the start of what occurs when a tulpa is made. Okay, so it started with the idea of the Tibetan tulpas, and now it's come. And so there's just a whole lot of history to that. We don't have time to talk about it, but Tracy talks a lot about it in her class. Okay, so they could go out, they could perform tasks. I mean, they are beings. Okay,
Yep.
so they could do. I mean, have you heard of them? Do you know about these?
No, I don't.
Okay, so they can go out, they can perform tasks, they can do things. They may actually start kind of balking or resisting the control of their creator, even. Okay, and they may actually eventually turn against them.
Okay.
Okay, so they can be very powerful. And do they always turn against the creators? No, that's Hollywood. They don't. But then there came these modern tulpas, right? So that's a very short thing about the history of the Tibetan tulpas. In modern sense, they would start seeing them more as, okay, I need a tulpa to help me with certain things. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of people would, it's on the internet, there would be a lot of tulpas, and they would live in your mind. And you create them through your own thoughts. You give them personalities, you give them everything. And it may sound really crazy, but this is very, very, very common. And there's been a lot of studies. And there was a study out of Stanford. There was a study, and there's one that, Matt, I have another thing of why, a slide on why people would have studies. And this study was not ever out of Stanford. It's the other, I'm sorry, am I going out of order? Okay, there's another, let's see if I can find it. I go to they would do it because if they get depressed or if they, I've got it right here. So tulpas are, and one important thing is they're intentional. You intentionally create them, as opposed to, this is very important, as opposed to a lot of people would immediately ask, is this a DID? Is this like dissociative identity disorder? Which, there's a great show on Netflix right now that shows how that they are even showing that is not what Hollywood's presenting that to be, right?
Yeah.
It's not always that there's this one horrible serial killer aspect of the personalities. They can serve a lot of good purposes. And that doesn't mean you don't need therapy or need people to talk to, but it can.
Yeah, so as you're talking about it, think about it as Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. What's that? A League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, the movie with Sean Connery? In that movie, think about it as Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Well, when you need the brains part, Dr. Jekyll comes out. But when the fighting starts in the movie, the one that pops out is Hyde. And, he's like the ultimate badass in the movie because he can actually goes back and forth between the brains part and the brawn, and that's basically what you're saying. He created that in his mind, in himself, that he can flip back and forth as he needs it.
Right, exactly. And so many people are quick to say, okay, this is mental disorder, but it goes out to so many things that we, in metaphysics or in things we're now knowing how deep the mind is and how many things that are connected to multidimensionality or even our dimension that we don't fully understand, that we can create with our reality, right? With our thoughts. And so one of the things, this is from Varieties of Tulpa Experiences, and this is by a Dr. Samuel Vessier. And the most common conditions, he did a study, and I have to say and report that this study wasn't extremely extensive, and it was reported, but it wasn't like backed up with a bunch of scientific data, but it was an interesting small study, and it was a scientific study, but not a broad study. And he reported that many of the respondents to his study were in order. He said, people with Asperger's symptoms, these are people that it helped them to have a tulpa. Asperger's, 25%, attention deficit disorder, 21.4%, general anxiety, 17.8%, depression, 14.4%, and obsessive compulsive disorder, 10.7%. And 98.7% of the respondents expressed that taking up tulpamancy, which is what it's called, had made their condition better. it did not say to get rid of any therapist or psychologist that might help you with your depression or your underlying what you were going through, but that it did help.
So it's a way to focus your energy, the energy that you're not naturally coming out with, you know, that you're showing every day, to focus your energy in another direction to help people.
Or to help yourself.
Yeah, or
Yeah,
to help yourself.
to help yourself. So the benefit is the biggest benefit. Another one, and I did have a picture of just this was the traditional depiction of a tulpa, a Tibetan tulpa. That is a traditional depiction. And then the next picture that I had is the tulpas that certain writers have used. So Anne Rice used a tulpa. A lot of writers use tulpas. And she used a tulpa for her character Lestat. It was actually a tulpa. So what was Lestat? A real being. A real being.
To her, yeah.
Well, a real
Or to
being.
real
Yeah.
being, yeah.
And then so was with, what was it, Jim Davis?
Jim Davis and Garfield.
With Garfield. That was a real,
Jim
to
Davis and
it was a,
Garfield,
so more than imaginary friend, this was a created being to
Mhm.
them, a tulpa. So it's something really to start. And if you're interested in it, you know, get some books and learn about it. I did look up a few books. I can write them later. I can write the ones I've referred to, a couple of things in here.
Mhm.
But one of the biggest things is, you know, movies take it and they make it scary. I guess what's the biggest benefit? It can help you with creative things. It can help you with those things I just mentioned that I came in talking about, you know, depression. If you needed some, and I did actually when I was younger, I definitely had imaginary friends. I just thought those were spirit guides. Who knows if I actually had a tulpa. And they can have jobs. You can give them certain creative jobs. So a lot of writers will, for certain characters, they'll have a tulpa to help them with creativity. Or if you had, so they sound a lot like guides, but you're creating true thought form beings.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess you could create it in a, I mean, I know we were saying negative, positive, but you could create it to do good or bad.
Yes, you could.
I mean, depends on what your thought is, what you're looking at.
Yeah. Now, what would be the dangers besides what you said? The danger is you're taking part of your own spiritual, our four bodies, right? Spiritual, mental, whatever, spiritual, physical, mental, emotional. You're taking a part of yourself, right? And you're creating another individual. Okay, you're intentionally doing that, which is separate from DID because that's unintentional,
Right.
typically. Okay, but you're intentionally doing it. But you need to remember that it's still you, but it's not ever intended to take over all four of your bodies. So if you let it take over one, which happens with some people, so they'll totally let it take over their, let's say their mental body, and all they do is they're just in this writing world or this fantasy world, and they don't take care of their physical selves at all.
Yeah.
Right, and they never get out of the house like me today, and they never go do anything, right? So that would be a drawback. So that's a tulpa in a nutshell, and I'm sure there's other people who can do a much better job, but just to touch on it and to let our listeners know that it is a thing. It's a real thing, and it's not just those movies that talk about it, like The Ring, I believe. Okay,
The Ring?
didn't it talk about it?
I don't know.
Okay.
It seemed like a weird movie to me.
Yeah. So, well, one of the top scariest movies.
The
of all
Ring
time.
is?
They say.
It didn't scare me.
Yeah. I think maybe.
You mean watching a VCR tape of a circle on the TV and then something comes after you? Did not scare me.
Right.
There are worse things, like the birds. At least there's fucking birds all over the U.S. I mean, all over. Whenever you go outside, there's birds everywhere.
I think there's plenty of worse things right now, but
The
this is
birds.
scary. The birds.
What's scarier than the birds chasing your ass down and pecking your eyes out? The Ring. That's not a scary movie. Surely to God, y'all do not think The Ring was scary.
Okay, so the next thing is, what is a thought form? Okay, so I read about thought forms all in my book. So do you think, Roger and listeners And hopefully Roger's watching, so if y'all did take time to write, we can see them because I get lost in like Facebook land. But do you think that thought forms are real?
Thought forms are real, yeah.
So what are they?
Thought forms, all right, so the thing about thought forms, though, is that you can, kind of the same thing. You can put yourself in a good situation by your thoughts or into a bad situation by your thoughts.
Okay, so that's like creating, that's like positive affirmations.
Yes. Positive affirmations, or let's say you're trying to do some magic with some candles and not quite know what you're doing, and maybe let it backfire on you.
Like
Michelle.
me. He's talking about me. So, but in that situation, so since everything is energy, is there really a difference between something that you're creating that if you have a lot of anger, let's say, and a lot of fear, and you throw all that anger and all that fear together, could you create something very akin to, let's say, a thought form that is very akin to what others might call a demon?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I agree. And what is a demon?
A demon? So there's a couple of different ways of that. I mean, I do think there are demons out there that are like just very different levels of evil, maybe.
Mhm.
You know, like maybe one steals your sock out of the dryer and you're hunting for that freaking sock over the house. Or the 3 pairs of socks I can't find. Stole my damn socks. Or maybe there's one that actually causes you to have a lot of stress, issues, depression, things like that even.
Okay.
So I think
So-
there's like different, different things there that actually
Okay.
could happen.
So based on your examples, I'm thinking you maybe really have never encountered a real demon,
Just the one in your apartment, which is really your thought forms.
which was my thought form. Okay. So a thought form, I think, a demon, first of all, I think it's all culturally based, what we call things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a big part of it. And I don't think people should get in arguments about what we call things. Okay, that's a label. But the general idea of it, something that scares the crap out of us, that is not something that feels good to us, okay?
Yeah.
I do think that that is a thought form that we as humans layer on top of other dimensional energies, okay? So multi-dimensional energies potential that we don't understand, or even our dimensional energies that we don't see or understand. And we can actually create them, for instance, when we're extremely upset or extremely angry.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think other people can create them? Hell yeah. Why couldn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that we can create
Bring it forward.
anything. So otherwise, take away all your little pop psychology memes that everybody freaking posts up there that they're convenient to post when you say, oh, you create your own reality. Well, don't tell me that when it just serves your purposes, right?
You're right.
Don't tell me that when you want just to say, you create your own reality, so feel better. No, if you create your own reality, you create your own reality. You either do or you don't,
Right.
right?
You do. You do. But I do think you create that. But you can create it in a positive or negative way, too.
Right.
Because
So,
it
or-
depends on, kind of where you are.
Right. But don't you think so many people use it but then they're running scared and they're not, I don't see that coming up a lot right now. I mean, so why don't a bunch of people who believe that get together and create a different reality right now?
Let's do it.
Because otherwise I don't know that I believe it.
Okay.
Or is it a reality we're supposed to be living in? Or do they punt that one and they put that one aside and they say, okay, this meme I don't choose to believe today, or this belief I don't choose to believe today. I don't choose to believe this one.
But could that
I'm
go
gonna
back?
let's say I'm gonna flip through and I'm gonna believe, I'm gonna believe this one. Well, that goes back to all that religious stuff that I thought people would pick and choose what they wanted to believe. So, but if our thoughts create a reality, then aren't we creating? I mean, explain to me. Somebody, please, explain to me
Well, you know that how like people come to you and they're like, I need to know what the winning lottery numbers are.
Mm-hmm.
And what's your theory on that?
The scattered energy.
Okay, isn't it the same thing what you're talking about? If you think about it, you've got a handful of people who are trying to make positive things happen, but then you have a lot of people that are scared and worrying about and thinking about the negative things that are happening.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of bounces off of each other.
I agree.
Okay, so it's kind of that same thing as the winning lottery ticket. You can't find that winning lottery ticket right now because if everybody wants a winning lottery ticket, you're not going to go to your psychic and find those numbers. And right now, the problem is that you've got some people that are like, coronavirus fake. This is fake. This is fake. You got other people like, oh my God, you got to worry about this. You go, so you got a lot of scattered energy out there.
I think that's
and
true.
a lot of people, true, not true, whatever. But you got a lot of people focusing on the wrong
Fear.
things and fear. And what do I tell you? There's a lot of fear mongers out there. They're trying to stir up the trouble. They're trying to create issues where there's really not that much of an issue, maybe, or maybe there is, but there's might be one of those cases where it's just getting scattered too much.
Well, I think you agree that there's an issue.
Oh, yeah. I do.
But I think that what you just triggered me to think is not only that is there scattered energy, that goes back to the negative and positive thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't, if you are all trying to get together to create a reality that you want, but you can't decide on what that reality is, and you all have different, back to negative and positive, and you all have different opinions of what you want that to look like, then it is going to be scattered. And so I think that is a big part of it, because you can't have people aren't coming together to agree what they think that should look like. And that's what I think we have. We have this big dispersion of and it's a big divide of and anger. And I do think there's a thought form. Mm-hmm. I'll just go on record as saying I think there's a huge thought form over our country of nothing but anger. And I bet you if you could see it energetically, and I bet you some people can, there's just this nasty black huge cloud hanging over our country of thought form, like ugly.
So,
like, how they show those pictures after like 9/11 of like the stuff in the flame and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I guarantee you that's hanging over our
well,
country.
if you think about
It's
it,
a thought form.
I mean, go back. I don't know. Let's go back 30 years. I barely remember 30 years, but 30 years ago, America was looked at from other countries, right? From other countries as being, this country. Let's go to America. Let's,
more than 30 years.
Maybe more than 30 years.
More than 30.
Whatever. But now people are like, let's don't go to America.
Yeah.
On the world stage, America's probably it's probably slipped back just a little bit. Okay, that's what I mean. Just because countries, how they rank world stage type things, and America's just slipped back a little bit. That's, if you think about it, like you said, how other people from all over the world, how they view that.
It's probably some karma too, but to be honest, I was going to do real quickly, but I do think that if people kind of got on the same page, there could be some healing, more. I mean, I hope that happens. I hope that, I don't know the reasons for things, but to me, I just take really simple things and I go, if you give me a statement and you say it's true, then show me why it's not being utilized.
Maybe we need to create a Facebook event instead of storming, Area 51. Maybe we have a Facebook event where we actually have like a world meditation for like 15 minutes for America. Yeah,
well, I think we should. But I mean, but again, I think people have different viewpoints of what that might be. But hey, so I was going to show, when I went through all this, I don't know if we have time, but I'm going to show really quickly, maybe it's a different show. When I get way off track when I do research. Can y'all tell? Because I go, but the most interesting... She
has researched for the last 3 days.
The most interesting stuff comes... It's time, though. Should we save it for another show? Save it, Mr. Producer?
How about hit briefly and say, not on the next show, because we actually have special guests on the next show, but on the future show.
Yeah, let's tease them a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
On what might...
Do you want to do it, Matt?
Well, here I can... hold on. Can we put this one up here?
What the fuck is that?
Roger.
Oh.
Jeez, Miss. God, can you bleep it?
Y'all know my whole life purpose is to embarrass Michelle, right?
And Matt, apparently, because he's red as he can get over there.
I'm good. So yeah, this was you had found some stuff about spirit photography, right? Like looking at all this stuff, which makes me wonder. Can these tulpas or thought forms or whatever be photographed? I guess they probably could be, right? I would assume. So yeah, maybe we'll talk about that on.
That looked Japanese. The writing up there.
So we'll talk about that. That took me all the way down to hidden mother photography, which was fascinating and had nothing to do with what we were talking about.
How did you go from let's talk about negative to look spirits in photography?
Because they were propping up these babies and they look like ghosts, but it's really moms.
Wait, you see a ghost or a mom in there and a baby too?
Oh, hold on, I have a picture of that too.
I show that one.
Wait a second. Let me find the one here.
Now y'all know how Michelle's mind works.
There
There
you
you go.
Well, just sitting up in a chair
No,
in her big ass dress.
it's called hidden mother photography.
There's a
It's-
person underneath that.
And to be honest,
That's
you know what?
That's
Back
not a chair,
then,
babe. That's a person. That's
Yeah.
the mom.
I was gonna say, I did say in her big ass dress, but back in the day, they dressed, every baby the same. So who knows?
But no, I
Boy,
thought you were talking about the person. That's a mom under there holding that baby up. So somehow I got from
Well, why don't they
spirit
just make it
photography-
a high chair and stick his ass in there?
Now they have this little foam thing or something that they just stick your baby on and kind of prop it up. And
Just lay that baby down and take pictures of it and be done with it.
is that what you did with
Yup.
Will and Lee? No, that's not. I saw them propped up. They were all propped up and cute.
That'll be for another day.
Yes, it will. So next,
I held them by their foot upside down and said, "Here, take a picture."
no, you didn't.
Actually, I think I did once or twice. There's probably pictures somewhere of them like that.
So who are our guests next week?
Amy and Monty.
Oh, so you cannot cuss like that when Amy and Monty are
I know
here.
Monty get
They
mad
will.
at me.
They will get on to you.
I'll
So-
have to get them out the next weekend. So tune in 2 weeks, and Michelle gets a double dose.
So next week we have. Do you want to announce who we have? Tell them.
Oh, we have Amy Zerna and Monty Farber. They'll be on our show talking about their creations and all types of good stuff.
They have probably produced more books, and they're prolific with their books. And their Amy has jewelry and clothing and
wraps.
Bergdorf Goodman and
Tapestries.
tapestries. They're over the top gorgeous, and they have. We sell their cards. We sell their books. Their books are some of our most popular books.
We're
and
actually
cards.
sold out. I
We're always-
contacted Chris today. It's like, Chris, I need books and cards.
Yeah, we get sold out of their stuff all the time, and they're
Yeah.
really actually. But to me, the most about them is that they, to me, are mentors in the community, because when everybody else is fighting and screaming and arguing and doing all their silly nonsense,
They're just
that
chugging along,
they
doing their
are.
thing.
That he's a great astrologer, and they're just saying, "Here's what the stars say. Here's what the report says. This is what." But yet, at the same time, they're always giving positive.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I don't have the little outro thing.
Well, then make it up and go.
So I will just say, thanks you guys for listening. I want to thank everybody for listening to SoulWhat, and we will be on next week with our guests,
Yep.
Amy and Monty. And you can listen to on all the podcast platforms, and listen to us on Facebook and on Michelle Soultopia on YouTube. And I want to especially thank Matt Stoker, as always, for being our producer, and we'll see you next time.
Night, guys.